I am one of the co-founders and chief operating officer for the Stafford Boxing Club Incorporated, our nonprofit organization, which is a yearly mentoring program for at-risk youth in the community.
So we will be able to teach financial literacy, communication, discipline, decision making, as well as campaigning for a premium education.
These are the foundation for the Stafford Boxing Club, these 20 mentees in our program here at Panola Way Elementary School. 20 years from now, Stafford Boxing mentees will be known across the world.
Hey, what's up, what's up, what's up? You know I'm about that, baby. Ooh, yeah, you know what's up.
What's up? What's up then? Miss Sheila, you looking all good,
Thank
swole. You feel me? Like you looking all luxurious, respectfully. Yeah.
You know what it is.
Yeah. Baby.
Yes.
Man, the Stafford showed and went international, man.
I know.
For real, man.
Because we have a guest.
Man.
That's all the way. I don't know which way to point, but it's one of these ways.
He
all the
over
way
yonder.
From Malta, yeah.
He over yonder on the island.
I know.
Surrounded by water.
I know.
Yes, Lord.
That's what we like.
Yeah, so baby, let's go ahead and introduce this fighter, man, because he's doing big things over in this country.
Yeah, he really is. Not only does Larry Holmes support him, but the WBC has called him the new Otra Gatti.
Okay.
And he is also the UBO international or intercontinental champion.
He a champion. Yes.
And
yes,
like we said, he's all the way in one of these directions in Malta.
Man,
he's a great boxer. I really like his style, and he's very aggressive. That's one of the reasons why.
He's a married man now, too.
Yes, he is. And that's why
he's a father, too.
Yes, and that's why the WBC, the World Boxing Council, for those who don't know, gave him that title because he's very aggressive. And when you do look at him and watch him, he is about his business.
You about that life.
So everybody, we want to introduce Christian to the show, and I have him to pronounce his name because I don't want to be disrespectful like that. And I was rehearsing while you and him were talking, and I just totally got tongue-tied.
Christian, what's up, man?
I'm here, and don't worry about it. Everybody gets the pronunciation wrong. So you wouldn't have been the first one, and I wouldn't have been offended either.
Hey, listen, so please do the honor and introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yes.
Our supporters.
Okay, so I'm Christian Coqqos Schembri. I'm from Malta. It's a tiny island in the Mediterranean. We're only like 500,000 people over here, and it's 23 kilometers in length, the island. So it's quite tiny. But we've got a very, very rich history. And yeah, I'm a pro boxer. I have 33 fights now. And 23 wins. And I've been doing this for 11 years. And I gave my heart and soul to it. And yeah, I just love it. I love the sport. I love the sport. It changed my life.
We could already tell that you love the sport just because of your fighting style and what you're doing in and out of the boxing ring. Because one of the impressive things too was that you met with the Prime Minister. You had an official meeting with your Prime Minister at Malta too.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we did. That was back in 2019. I won the UBO Intercontinental title, and along with another Maltese boxer on the same show. And they invited us to have an audience with the Prime Minister because there aren't many boxers from Malta who have won international titles, pro boxers. So I think we're only four now. 4 people have won international titles. So when we did, they invited us, and it was nice. I actually felt proud. I'm not really a politics guy, but I mean, when you go into the one of the official buildings, which is about 500 years old, 600 years old, and very few people actually get to go 500 years old. It was built in the 1600s. Very few people get to go in that building over the year. I mean, just politicians and people with special audiences. Of course, you feel like that, then like, damn, I must be doing something, you know.
For sure. So, how did you get started in the sport of boxing?
It's a long story. I've, well, my father's side of the family, and even my granddad from my mom's side of the family, like the ultimate like tough guys, most of them, like the alpha males. And so fighting was just something that you do when you were a kid. I used to practice martial arts, karate, Shotokan karate, but then I switched over to football, which is your soccer. And after a bit, I started getting bored with it, and I transitioned back to fighting, which is kickboxing and boxing. Initially to keep fit, but after a month, the kickboxing coach asked me if I wanted to travel with them for the experience, and I said, "Listen, if I'm traveling, I'm coming for a fight. You know, I'm not going to come just to cheerlead from the side." And he said, "Yeah, because in kickboxing there's light contact and full contact. So there we do one light contact." I told him like, "Look at me. You think I'm a guy who can go to light contact?" So yeah, you're right. And then before that, the boxing coach, he asked me if I wanted to fight as well. And after 3 months, which was in October, I had my first boxing amateur fight. It wasn't very graceful, granted, but yeah, I won that one. So yeah, that's how I started. Initially to keep fit after after stopping soccer, because I used to train like every day soccer. So I was like, I'm not gonna stop from one thing to another. But then once I got in the ring and sparred for the first time, I was hooked and just
Got,
wanted doing it and doing it.
gotcha. Mhm.
Now, you spoke a little bit about the boxing culture from where you're from, but how is it like in the UK? Like, no, they have like everybody gets together, they support whether it's female or male, everybody's come together, everybody's coming to those fights. So how is it where you're at?
We have quite a bit of people, quite a good attendance. I mean, we're not gonna get like 30,000 in a stadium.
Yeah.
Like soccer is the most popular sport, and they get like maybe 2,000 a match. But when we have the pro boxing shows, we always have between 800 and 1,200 spectators, and the people get up for the most is when two local fighters fight each other. That's when a lot of people show up towards the fights. You know, even me. I mean, here it works like that. You sell tickets, like in the UK. You sell tickets to get paid. Basically, you get a commission on the tickets. And when you're fighting another local fighter, like people just keep asking you for tickets, because they get really excited. And the atmosphere in the arena when you're fighting another local fighter is different than when you're fighting an international fighter. Granted, my fights they're always usually 50-50, most of them, even when I'm fighting international fighters, and they're close affairs. So there's always a good atmosphere. But when you're fighting other local fighters, that's when like the real big atmosphere comes out.
So, is it fair to say like you are the face of boxing in Malta?
Now, I wouldn't call myself the face, but I I wouldn't go that far. But I'm one of the most popular guys. Yes. And I've been doing it for, uh, at the moment, it's just me and another two guys that have been doing it for quite a long time, and at a good level. So it's me, Haytham Lamuz, and Steve Martin. And but yeah, I'm quite popular on the island. I sell quite a bit of tickets every fight, and I've been on some TV shows, some podcasts, radio, and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm quite popular.
So if you popular, that means that you the face. I mean, respectfully. I mean, I know you. I know that you're trying to be humble and stuff like that, but
Okay, so
not
let's
all the
do
fighters. Not
one of the
not all the
faces.
fighters get an opportunity to meet the prime minister, though. Come on now.
Yeah, true, true. One of the faces. Let's say I'm one of the faces of boxing.
Okay,
One of the
respectfully.
important,
Okay,
respectfully.
respectfully. I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
So, what are some of the challenges that you have faced being a boxer, and how have you overcome them?
Ah,
That's a good
come on,
question.
but yeah, again, spend the whole hour and a half just talking about this. Nah, so first, the the main difficulty that we had, like my generation, that the next generations will not have, is the lack of experience that there was within coaching.
Mm,
And because such a small island, we never had a very good boxing history. So the coaching that there wasn't the best. It wasn't bad, but again, it wasn't the best. And so then after I went pro and went to London for the first time for training, I realized it. And the sparring as well. Sparring in and around your weight class is quite hard to come by. Like I fight at middleweight, but I still spar sometimes welterweights and light heavyweights and cruiserweights because sometimes you just can't get the sparring, you know. And the only way to get around that is to travel, and that's how I got around that. And in the beginning, I just used to work full time, and I used to invest my money back into the sport just to, and any money I made from fights, from ticket sales, from the fight, I used to invest it back by traveling outside. I used to go to London a lot in the beginning, and anybody who came to Malta and asked me like, listen, I need some sparring. Are you available? I'm like, even if I was, I don't know how to say, like very busy, I would still just say, drop everything. I'm like, fuck it, I'll go spar. You know, it's like not any, not every day a guy with like 15 pro fights messages you on Facebook and tells you, listen, I need some sparring. I'm in the country. Can you come over? And when I knew about coaches who were here and were open to train people, there was Barry Smith. He used to come over 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 here. He's one, you know the guy for sure. He's the big guy in the corner with Ben Davison. You know Ben Davison, the guy who was training Tyson Fury.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so usually he's always in the corner with him. And he used to come over to Malta quite a lot. He's here at the moment. And and yeah, that's how. But then it started to get a little bit easier when I started to get some more sponsorships. The more I won fights and made a name for myself, I
Hmm.
got sponsorships, um, and that made it easier. That made it. I at one point, like before COVID, I was like traveling every couple of months just to go for a week or two to train someone.
So let me ask you a question. What old school fighters inspired you in terms of creating your style of fighting as you enter into the ring?
In the beginning, it was all about I was trying to be Mike Tyson.
Okay.
uh, but then I still like most of the fight when I'm killing time, I'm watching old school fights. I watch a lot of fights over the weekend. Like this weekend, I watched the Joshua fight and
Hmm.
Mm,
Chisora on the undercard, and then
So
I
what do
watched
you think about that fight?
Valdez and Navarrete. Ah, that fight, I'm like, the Joshua fight, I'm like, give the guy a break. I mean, he had a guy in front of him who was 6'9", 6'8", weighed more than him. Yeah, it was a late notice, and he was going to box a guy who was like very different to the guy he was boxing. And he was setting up the shot that he knocked him out with for like 5 or 6 rounds before that, because he was like on jab to the head, jab to the body, and then like feinting the right hand, going down, up and down. He was using the jab a lot. He was being responsible. He was boxing. When he found the right opportunity and he threw the right hand and connected, it was lights out. Yes, it wasn't as fast as Deontay Wilder knocked him out, but still, I think he did a good job.
Were you impressed by the fight?
Nah, the fight itself was boring, but most heavyweights fights are
Yeah.
boring anyways. It's like they throw a punch every 30 seconds.
Yeah,
It's,
that's what my wife said. She said the fight was boring.
it's because, but most heavyweights fights are boring. Like look at like for example Luis Ortiz versus Deontay Wilder,
Yeah.
the second one. Luis Ortiz was just using the jab most of the time, and Wilder was just waiting for the opening. The knockout is crazy. Like he's out cold on the floor. But still, the whole fight itself is not very nice. Most heavyweight fights are like that, in my opinion, at least. Because you you're a guy who's like 230 pounds, 240 pounds, 205 pounds. How that muscle requires a lot of oxygen, so you're not going to be able to throw as many punches as a lightweight or a middleweight. Like if you watch the Joshua fight and straight after you watch Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez, I think it's like you would think that you're watching two completely different sports.
So let me ask you a question because one of our supporters sent in a question. Who was your toughest opponent and why?
I can name a couple. I can name a couple. The two guys I fought, the first, not the first one. I fought the first guy abroad in Rome. He that wasn't a tough fight. He outpointed me, but that wasn't a fight. The 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 guy I fought in Switzerland, it was that fight because I got hit quite a bit in the beginning, and I went in with a cut which wasn't already healed. So like the first round, first jab he poked me, it split open after that scar. And in England, I had a tough fight versus Heaney, Nathan Heaney as well. I got a few punches there that I felt that because we fought with Mexican gloves as well.
How many ounces were they?
They were 10 ounces, but
Wow.
the Adidas ones, like the ones that are the Mexican style, they're just filled with horsehair, all of them. Like last fight, I fought with a pair of Clitos, and they were like a combination of padding and horsehair, and it makes the world of difference. The last fight was tough for the first couple of rounds because he had
Hold up. You said horse skin?
horsehair,
Horse skin.
horsehair,
Yeah, horse, right?
horsehair. Yeah, no, like the gloves
Yes,
inside are
yes.
filled with horsehair, not padding. The
Oh,
Mexican gloves. So that
oh,
and
okay.
so that you were feeling the punches more. He
Got you.
wasn't a very heavy puncher, but you can still feel like the knuckles going through. Not like when you're fighting with normal gloves, like with
Got you.
padded gloves. And then the last fight was a bit tough because I didn't get his timing in the first round, and he started fast. So when I was slipping and throwing in the middle of his punches, I was only throwing one punch in the beginning, and he continued to punch with me. And at one point, he hit me with a left on the temple, a left hook on the temple, and my legs went a little bit. Few seconds later, I almost knocked him down with a right hand to the chin. But his legs recovered better than mine. So he kept a high pace in the second as well. And then I had to really dig deep and like keep going forward and throwing punches like one after the other. I was trying to hit him everywhere, like body, shoulders, head, chin, wherever. and I pulled that out. So yeah, that like the last fight, I had to really dig deep. But the fights where I think were my toughest fights, like as in where I got hit clean as well as hitting myself, it was Nathan Heaney and Ramadan Hissani in Switzerland.
Got you. Want to say something?
Oh no, because I thought you had another one, and then I'll go after.
Oh, so the other thing is like in terms of, boxing is a mental sport, and
Yeah.
every boxer has their own regimen in terms of how they mental prepare for a fight. Our previous guest, Mia Ellis, she said that if a fighter is not mentally there, they shouldn't enter into a fight. So, what do you do to prepare mentally for a fight? And also, what do you prepare? Excuse me, how do you prepare physically for a fight? Like, what's your training from a physical standpoint? And what is your training from a mental standpoint?
Now, from a mental standpoint, I do a lot of visualization. Visualization. I try to imagine how a fight will go, what I want to do in the fight, and what my opponent will do in the fight. And I imagine good scenarios and bad scenarios as well. Like not just me slipping and countering or just putting the pressure on. I imagine getting hit, like being actually physically hurt and having to continue through it. Because when you do that, it adds layers in your brain. So that when you actually experience it, it's not like it's the first time. It helps when you find film on fighters, but like last fight, I couldn't find anything on the guy except like 30 seconds video of him hitting the pads. So I didn't know what to expect. It happened to me the fight before that as well. I fought a local guy. I had seen him fight a couple of times, and I probably underestimated him a little bit. And everybody was telling me that he was going to come out one way, and like putting a lot of pressure on and stuff like that. And that's what I thought as well. And then when he came out, I was surprised because even all my sparring was geared towards people putting pressure on me. So then the first couple of rounds, 3 rounds, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? He's just waiting for me all the time. And then after that, then I started going back into the fight, and it ended in a draw. But that's the thing. I didn't visualize different scenarios, and I didn't visualize different things that could happen in the fight. I only visualized the positive things. So when the unexpected happened, it was unexpected. It wasn't something. It was like, I already thought about this. I know what I need to do, and I had to adjust on the fly. Now, with regards to physical training, I get bored easily, so I change a lot. But I box every day, Monday to Friday.
Mm.
So usually I do that either at 11 in the morning or at 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So in between my morning lessons and my evening lessons, because I coach as well full time at the gym. That's my main source of income. And then in the morning, early in the morning, sometimes at 5 and sometimes at 6, mostly at 6, because I try to um, not train people at 6 anymore. Um, I uh, I do my conditioning. So before last fight, I did a 12-week weight training program, but I didn't feel as good with it. I didn't feel my usual speed and my bounce in my legs. It was personalized with strength training guys in the UK, boxing science, and which they are very good at what they do. And I go for my runs early in the morning, or I do my circuits early in the morning. So you're talking about 6 a.m. A run, or maybe if I have sparring and I want to save my legs, if I'm feeling tired, I might just shadow box a little bit and do mental training. Sometimes I push myself hard. I do like a red zone circuit. It's called where you get your heart rate going, boom, boom, like spike your heart rate up. And then in the afternoon or late morning, I do boxing. Right now, I'm working with with another guy. It's funny. I fought him 3 times. Scott Dixon. He's very
Hmm.
well known on the island as well. And we fought 3 times. And now he's training me. He's holding pads for me 2 times a week. Because I mean, he can't buy experience, and he's the most experienced guy on the island. So I mean, if he can help me, and he wants to. I was like, yeah, great, sure. Then I spar another 2 times a week when I'm close to a fight, and when I'm not close to a fight, I just like hit the heavy bag. Apart from the pads and do double end bag, I love the double end bag and the speed bag as well.
So
So
let
I
me
do it
ask you
all.
another question.
I
Yeah,
had to
because that's a lot,
I had to
bro.
take let me ask him this real quick before I forget. So, since you're talking about your training and what you do and how many days out the week, you are a vegan, correct? Are you
I was a vegan. I
okay?
was,
Why'd you stop?
as I had an eye injury with my retina, and the doctor suggested that I start eating more fish and fatty foods so that it has a better chance of recovery. So I started doing it, and then I just continued. And I had taken some blood tests, and my blood levels weren't very good. They were all either low or just over the lower threshold of the levels that I should have been. And doctor told me, listen, you're an athlete. You have to change the way you eat because your bloods are all over the place. And then after I changed, my blood levels, like my hemoglobin, hormones, and stuff like that, the red blood cell count, it all went up quite a bit. So then I changed. I'm not saying that the vegan diet is bad or that you have to eat meat. I'm just saying that it just didn't, at that moment in time, it wasn't agreeing that much with me, you know? And I kept going like this now.
So you had talked about how you have to sell tickets and stuff like that. Does
Yeah.
that take away from your training, or have you adapted to that type of part
Uh,
of
I've
boxing?
I've I've adapted now. I've adapted now. In the beginning, it would take me a lot more time, but now usually I message and text a lot of people like a month before the fight. Then I text again a week later, and then in the last 2 weeks, I just shift the tickets. Plus, I shift a lot at the gym as well because I work in a really big gym. There's like 2 or 3 thousand members,
Mhm.
like um, with memberships, like when they sign up for a year, 6 months, and stuff like that. And I'm quite an outgoing guy. I know a lot of people and I have a lot of friends. So when I'm fighting, I just tell them, listen, I'm fighting. You want to come? And they say, yeah, sure. And I shift a lot like that. It still takes away from your training, and you have to promote yourself a lot because you have to keep yourself in the people's eyes. You know that you're still training, you're still there, you're still boxing. You have to make sure that you're visible. You're over there on social media. So then, when you're fighting, there is actually an interest in people seeing, wanting to watch you fight. So it never takes time away from my training, but it does take time away from resting, which is very important. But it's part of the job, and you have to do it. You have to do it.
Are there any non-fighters that have had a significant influence in your life? Because you talked about Mike Tyson, who is a professional boxer, but are there any type of people who are non-fighters that have inspired you to become the
Um,
best fighter that you can be?
my dad was never a pro fighter, but he's been a very, very, very big influence in my life. I owe him and my mom as well. I owe them everything because my dad, especially, he instilled a great sense of self-discipline in me. He always pushed me to go to training when I was a kid, and that if it wasn't for him and how much he tried to keep me away from drugs and drinking and stuff like that, I don't think I would be where I am right now. And And then with regards to famous people, I would say I was a big martial arts fan, so Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, like all these legendary figures. I always like try to look at the way they trained in the movies and stuff like that. They do the splits, stretch every day. When I did karate, so yeah, they inspired me as well. And
So you
Street Fighter, the anime.
So you said that, well, earlier before we came on air, we were doing a lot of talking. I was like, man, we got to say this until we get on the air. So I kind of wanted to backtrack. I want to talk about like the population in Malta. And so, what's the language that y'all speak? Because I see that you do speak English, but you also speak it, the English has a little twist to it.
Yeah, I speak Maltese. The main language in Malta is Maltese.
Okay.
So when kids are growing up, everybody speaks Maltese to them, most of them, anyways. Then we learn English in school, and we learn other languages as well in school. You have to learn a third language in school as well. But the main language in Malta is Maltese. The two official languages are Maltese and English. I have a little twist as well because I've been uh, I've been working like part time and full time since I was 15 years old, 16, and I've worked with a lot of foreign people and I've traveled a lot. So of course you're going to, of course you're going to pick up an accent here and there.
Hey man, listen, I want you to say something in Maltese. Like, I want you to say the Stafford show, you know, is a good show, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on it. And, I'm looking forward to coming back after I get this WBC belt and,
Thank you.
I don't know, some other stuff.
Uh, the Stafford boxing show هو show vera طيب و vera content li qed nintervistawni fuqu u vera nixtieq nerġa' nidher fuq dan il-programm wara li nirbaħ iċ-ċinturin WBC.
Baby,
Hmm.
baby, we official. We official. Hey, man, we official.
Do you have a fight coming up?
I have a fight coming up on the 30th of September. I fought on
Okay.
the 21st of July, but I'm going to go back out on the 30th of September. I'm looking forward to it actually, because last training camp was a bit of stop start because I had a staph infection in my elbow, which I had to
Oh,
get
God.
operated on. Yeah, so then after I got out of hospital, I went straight to the gym and I trained for 3 weeks, made weight and fought. So I'm looking forward to this fight where I can like train for 8 weeks solid and go in the ring.
Who's the opponent?
I don't know yet. They're still
Oh,
confirming. I just leave it in the. Before I used to be on my manager and the promoter. Now, who's the guy? Who's the guy? Who's the guy? And now I'm just listening. It's like I realized how much I used to annoy them. So I'm like, listen, when you know, just let me know and I'll be there.
what
So
was your because I think like you had a relationship or you still probably do with Henry Wharton.
yes, 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 yes. I went. Well, the guy you spoke to, Mark,
Hmm.
he lived in New York for a very long time, and he used to interview him because in New York he's like a huge celebrity because he fought for the WBC title twice, 3 times, but lost decisions both times. And every time he fought the champion, they said that he was the one who gave them the toughest fight.
Hmm.
And he had talked to him about me, and they came to Malta for a couple of days to with their fighters to spar me. And when they were here, they offered me a fight in Stoke, and I was like, "Listen, I don't have anybody to train me with at the moment. If you tell me that you're going to train me and corner me, I'll come up and fight." So then we agreed everything. I went up to York for 3 weeks to train with him,
Hmm.
and then I fought in Stoke. and he cornered me. I had a very good opportunity to go live and work there, but unfortunately I couldn't take it because this was back in 2020,
Yeah.
and like a few days after, like in the weeks I was in New York, there was
Hmm.
the whole panic brewing about COVID in the UK, and it was good that I didn't move because the UK spent like a year like under different kinds of lockdown, gyms closed and stuff like that. Because I was going to go take care of the gym. And then in the meantime, my wife was pregnant and we had our daughter. So I was like, I don't want to
Hmm.
uproot the family and give them such a dramatic shock to go to a different country with a baby and stuff like that. So then I said, listen, I mean, I cannot do it now.
So, how many fights do you have per year? Because in the
Oh
United
yeah.
States, they might fight like once every. I don't know. It seems like what, once a year, twice a year.
Yeah, if they're lucky, if well, yeah, if they're able to, maybe three
Yeah.
might be sometimes a limit depending on that person. But not really. Three
Not
would be
really.
the ideal, but
Yeah,
really two,
two. Yeah,
between one and two, but
yeah.
three would actually be the ideal though.
1 year I fought 6 times. That
Wow.
was 2016, I fought 6 times. Then there was 2019, I fought 5 times. But usually I fight 3 and 4 times a year. But in Malta, the shows are always regular. But because finances are quite tight, and if you don't have really good sponsors backing you,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't sell a hell of a lot of tickets, you cannot go to that high level of an opponent to fight for good titles because um, I mean, most opponents, most guys now are charging between 300 and 400 euros per round. So if you're fighting 8 rounds and he's charging 300, that's going to be 816, 2400 euros. And then you have the expenses of the coach and the fighter flying in and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the promoter will tell you like, listen, hold your horses, you know. It's like, but yeah, a lot of shows happen regularly, so you have a great opportunity to keep active and build up your record and keep your name out there. And then if you're investing in yourself, and then because you don't make that much money, but then you can go and fight abroad and get better fights over there.
So let me ask you a question. Number one, it's a two-part question. How
Okay.
did you meet your wife?
At the gym,
Oh, really?
Huh.
we met at the gym. Yeah, she was sitting in the back, and I went up to her, talked to her, and uh, and yeah, we started dating, and we kept dating, and then I think 2 years later, yeah, 2 years later, we got married.
Wow. I
Yeah,
was I was also reading that the ring bearers were the sponsors' children for
yeah,
your
yeah,
wedding.
yeah. My because I during that time I was training all of their children as well, and I used to see them every day, and we didn't have young children in my family. So I said, listen, do you want your kids to be the ring bearers? They would be really honored and grateful. And I'm like, yeah, sure. It was nice.
So
And Emilio, Valentin, and Ellie.
yeah. So the other thing is like now that you married, how
Uh,
does your wife like I guess look at you being a fighter? Like it's one thing when you were like
Dating.
dating, but
yeah.
now since you're a husband and wife, the fact that she see guys hitting you and all this other type stuff, and the love and bond that y'all have for each other is on a different level. So how long do you think you're going to continue to I guess tolerate that type of punishment in
Yeah.
the sport of boxing?
Uh, well, in the beginning, at at one point, like a couple of years ago, she was asking me to stop when because when we first met, like 2017, I had just turned pro like about a year and a half before. So the fights weren't that tough. So she used to be like really happy to come and watch me fight and stuff like that. But then when I went up a level or two, and the fight started getting tougher, and you start getting cuts, and she sees you like getting punched, and you're tripping, you bite down on your mouthpiece, and you fight back. She was asking me to like listen, to pack it in. But I told her it's like I'm too young to pack it in. I was 29 back then, and I'm 31 now. And I know I have a few good years left in me because I live the athlete life. I don't drink. I only drink occasionally. I don't smoke. I don't do any drugs. I train every day religiously. Like after fights, I take 3 days off and I go back in the gym. So I'm always in shape. And now she accepted that it's kind of like eh, it's me, you know. I don't want to be one of those guys that keeps fighting until they're like 43 or 45 or 40 because I want to enjoy my kids like growing up because I know that I have a very busy day. And, but she's accepted it. She's accepted it. So she's nervous. She's very nervous when she comes to the fights. Um, so I don't even like before I used to go out and speak to people before and speak to them before the fights, but now I just lock myself in my dressing room because I don't want that nervous energy before the fight. But I mean, she's nervous, she's afraid, but she's accepted it as well. She knows the dangers. So, but again, she's an equestrian rider as well, my wife.
Yeah.
So like the horse jumping.
Yeah.
So I told her, I mean, listen, it's not like you're playing tennis or something. You're doing quite a dangerous sport as well. So like, leave a man be, you know?
So now there is an emergence for women in the sport of boxing.
Yes.
And so you have a young daughter, right?
Uh-huh.
And so your young daughter sees you go to the gym, she watches you, et cetera, et cetera. So would you allow your daughter to enter into the boxing industry, being that now the future is extremely bright for female fighters, even though there might not be a lot of female fighters in Malta, but I'm pretty sure by the time that she gets of age and get to that level where she may have an interest in fighting, would you allow her to enter into the boxing industry?
Yeah, of course I would. Of course.
Wow.
And well, one thing is like if she would want, I would not push her, but if she would want to do it, I would encourage her. That's one thing. Second thing, whether she wants to or not, she needs to learn how to defend herself because the world is a nasty place. So she needs to learn how to throw a punch at someone in their nose and just run away. So that's the thing. Third thing, of course, I would have my reservations because it is a tough sport. You have to dedicate your life to it. I mean, you have your dreams, you have your goals, and then you might dedicate your life to it and end up empty-handed, anyways. But to me personally, even though I'm not a world champion or anywhere close, um, I it changed my life. It changed my life for the better. A lot. I mean, I stopped all my bad habits because when I was a teenager, we used to get into like bar fights every other weekend and used to drink. It's crazy. Like the amount I used to drink back then, if I did it now, I would like. And like money wise as well, I make a decent amount of money. Like, so I owe a lot to the sport of boxing as well.
So would you be her trainer
Of
as well as her
course.
manager?
Of course, of course.
We already knew
Um,
that.
Yeah,
no, of course, I wouldn't. Oh, I
It's
know best.
shiesty.
You know, I'm her dad.
yeah,
It's
but
a shiesty business, and
yeah,
he knows. It's just like with Mia and her dad,
yeah,
and she
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, "I trust my dad because they'll say you'll get this certain amount of money, but then you're really not getting that money because they're taking a big hunk of a percentage out leaving the boxer
Empty.
like empty handed, and they're like, what in the world? So pretty much like when you are finished with boxing, you're
Uh-huh.
not going to go anywhere from it. Are you still going to be a part of it? Of course, I can see
Yeah,
like
I want.
training and shows.
Yes, I want to. I want to keep training people for sure. I want to have my own gym, my own small gym, nothing big. To keep training people in, and I want to help out in some official capacity as well, like either referee and maybe help out in the association and stuff like that. Because I read a lot. I've been reading a lot for a long time about boxing,
Hmm.
so I know how stuff works when it comes to being a manager, matchmaker, promoters, what they do, what they don't do, what
Hmm.
they try to do to get to the boxers, and I always want to be there for the boxers, you know. Well, I mean, I dabbled into promoting as well, a little bit, and so I understand from the promoter side as well. So I think I think it would be a shame if I didn't stay involved in the sport of boxing, and because I have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience in the few years that I've been boxing for 11 years now. So I think that it would be a shame if I didn't pass it on.
And with you saying that about you doing a lot of reading, and of course you do have experience and you've been studying in the sport of boxing, drum roll, please. What would be something that you would change
Mm.
that you
Uh,
see, or some
Now,
changes that you know is just flat out not right?
so I would drug testing. Drug testing needs to be like overhauled. Everybody needs to be drug tested. I mean, like the associations need to be held to account that every fighter needs to be drug tested, even if it's just a random piss test, not the
Mhm.
blood testing, but everybody would have to do it. Like judges need to be held accountable. They need to explain why they give certain scores, and like the whole organizations, like the big organizations, four of them is too much. There needs to be one that governs all, like same rules, same criteria, one set of rankings. I mean, yes, it will create a big backlog for fighters fighting for titles, but still, I think the way it is at the moment is too decentralized. Like even in the USA, like you have how many states? 52 or 50?
52.
So
Mhm.
52. We have 52 state athletic commissions with their own set of rules, own standards, own guidelines, their own judges, their own referees. And in every state, it's almost to each his own. Yes, you have the ABC, the Association of Boxing Commissions, but it only goes so far, you
Mhm.
know? It's like when there was like Miller, when he was caught with drug testing, he wasn't licensed. So he wasn't going to get licensed in New York and he was applying for a license somewhere else. So that because there's not just one one agency, one organization that takes care of everything. Everything is like everybody is like to each their own, you know. Even the rankings, the way they work, it's not I fight you, and if you're higher than me and I beat you, I take your place. I mean, you see it like in some organizations, like all of a sudden a fighter is ranked 75 or 65, then the next week he's ranked number 13 conveniently for a mandatory title defense, you know. So good. I mean,
You,
it's boxing
Yeah.
and it's going to stay that way for a long time, I think.
you
But
know,
it's not
Christian,
good.
I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm watching you, and I feel very privileged and honored to be interviewing you. And it's not so much from the boxing standpoint as being a boxer. It's like I'm talking to a living legend. Like in your country, you are a legend. Like when it's all said and done, you're going to impact the sport of boxing in Malta and you're going to pave the way for younger fighters. I mean, you are an inspiration to your community. And like I was telling you earlier, like me and Sheila, we've been praying that God expand the Stafford show because we believe that we bring something unique to the boxing industry. Everybody has to find their niche, right? And I believe like because we don't have like a boxing background, but Sheila and I, we study the sport because our inspiration is Custom Model, which was the trainer of Mike Tyson. And we read, a lot of books. We read the books and stuff like that. But the point of the matter is like he always talked about character and he always talked about legacy and the impact. So I just believe that you are just beginning to scratch the surface of the sport of boxing in Malta. And like the fact that you are training these kids, you never know what these kids will become and how you're impacting these kids' life. Like, for instance, you say that you owe a lot of gratitude to the sport of boxing because it kept you out of bars, it kept you disciplined, it kept you off of drugs, it kept you, just out of foolishness. The same thing that the sport of boxing has done for you, you are instilling those same things. So now it's like a ripple effect, like you are preparing generations. And so with your notoriety in Malta and you already meeting the prime minister who is extremely busy, he got a lot of pressure on him to run that country the way it's supposed to be run. I mean, you already, to me, in the spiritual realm, I'm looking at an individual that don't really understand the significance and the impact that he's contributing to the sport of boxing.
Hopefully, I make a significant impact. I try my best, especially when I'm training like teenagers and stuff like that, especially when they are interested in fighting, to bring them up the right way and like to give them a good word of advice so that they don't repeat the mistakes I made when I was younger. I mean, but that's not for me to say, it's like, I mean, when it's all said and done, I mean, that's for other people to say, like, I want to have a big impact. I want to leave a good memory of me with the things I do, not just with my fights, but other things with training people and helping boxing in general. But then that's for other people to say, like, my impact, what it will
Well,
be.
I'm saying it now. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it
Thank you.
because you are a very humble guy, and
Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell you, man. Like I didn't know what to expect, but it was like we had immediately clicked as soon as you came on, and when we were talking in the green room, it was like, man, okay, bet it's gonna be a great show, and man, this has been a great show. Like I mean, I can talk to you for hours because my mind keeps coming up with questions after questions after questions after questions. And so, being that Malta is on an island, so what's the most popular dish and like, what's the fashion like? You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get a visualization of the culture there.
Traditional dishes, very good traditional dishes, rabbit like rabbit and stew, or rabbit with tomato sauce. And I mean, tradition, we're very big with local feasts, festas, they are called. It's like my hometown just had it yesterday. It's like the patron saint of the town. You get a week where everybody's celebrating, not in a very religious way. It's just there's a mass, but then there's the band marches through the streets every evening for a week, and like people are jumping behind the band and singing with the band, and a lot of drinking and celebrating and stuff. Um, yeah, we're as a country, it's a Roman Catholic country as well. Uh, we're quite family oriented as a country
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Like
I
because
agree.
it's such a small island, like the kids might leave house, but they're still about 10-15 minute drive away or 20 minutes. So you still go to visit your family very often. Like I live 10-minute drive away from my parents, so I try to visit at least 3 times a week. Even if I just go for like 15, 20 minutes, I I go quite often. And now with the little kid, they help us take care of her when maybe she's sick and she cannot go to the nursery, or like right now the nurseries were shut down for summer holidays. So when me and my wife are working, she stays with my mom, her
Oh.
grandma.
Man,
So
Because he got some dishes. You have some dishes named after you from at restaurants.
yeah, I had a dish. I had a dish. I had a burger, the Chocos burger.
a
It was
burger?
with a double vegan meat patty. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Bet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man,
Uh,
Christian, man, I ain't gonna lie,
I
Shout
man.
had
out to
that
MWS Promotion.
exactly. And MWS Promotions. He's a great guy, Mark, and he's really good at his business as well.
Christian, I ain't gonna lie, man. Man, I'm proud of you, bro. I don't even know
Thank
you, but man, just talking to you, man, and like your energy, like your maturity at the age of 31, man, I'm man,
I
bro.
knew he was going to be a
Man,
good
listen, bro.
person when I
Hey,
started
I'm
looking
proud
at
of you, bro.
when I
You
talked to
don't
Mark.
really understand how
you.
proud I am of you, and I want to say to your mother and father, man, they done a remarkable job instilling
Thank you, brother.
qualities in you, man, and I can see that
And shout out to
Thank
your wife too.
for real.
you. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have it easy with me either. But I mean, when you marry a fighter, you marry a job. So I mean, yeah, she's supportive. She's quite supportive.
I got one more question before we get out of here,
And then he
Christian.
has to do
Tell
a
me.
gold nugget.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then I want you to end it with a gold nugget. A gold nugget is wisdom, advice that you will leave to viewers, to a young fighter, female, male boxer, whatever. So now I looked at your record, your boxing record, right? And I
Uh-huh.
said to myself, in your losses, you never did get knocked down. It was always by points, right?
Yeah,
And so I just want to understand what motivates you to get back up and continue to,
Mm.
move forward. Because as you can see, the last fight, the mega fight with Earl Spence and Terrence
yeah,
Crawford, I really believe that fight, that loss, really took something out
Yeah.
of Earl. I mean,
yeah,
I saw some recent photos. He's taking a vacation,
Mhm.
etc. And to be honest with you, I like both fighters. I really didn't want them to fight each other, but boxing is a business.
yeah.
Boxing is a business of hurting people, etc. So, what inspires you to keep getting back up? And like I said, you never got knocked out, which is great. So the other part of that is, what do you learn from them lessons? I don't call them losses, I call them
Yeah.
lessons. And when can we see you become a world champion, hold that green belt, the WBC? Because I believe that those lessons that you learn is preparing you for that moment. Like I saw Terrence Crawford have like a parade, right? And so as I was talking to you, and me and my wife, we had this discussion. So Floyd Mayweather has kind of, I mean, he's helped the industry, but he's hurt the industry in a way, because every fighter thinks that
You
without,
cannot lose.
correct. So a fighter thinks like, if they don't,
Protect their own, they cannot make
correct.
it.
Correct. And so, being that you have some lessons on your record, I don't think that those lessons will hinder you from getting that title fight. You know what I mean? Because as a boxer, that's really what you really want. You want that
Of
opportunity.
course.
All those fights, all the training leads up to that one particular fight. And so I just want to hear from you, like, how do you get back up and continue to move forward?
Nah, I lost some fights where I was really pissed off because like they were like close fights, which I thought I should have won, and like here at home, and I got losses. So those ones are really hard to take. Those ones are the ones that when you really think you won, where you know you won, but you still lose. That's when that's the only few times I thought about backing it in, you know. And I started boxing late, and I can see the difference in myself. Like after fights, I always get that little bit better. That's why I'm still very passionate about it and trying to perfect myself. But I know I still have good fights left in me. I still haven't reached some targets that I set out for myself, so that's why I'm still working so hard. And I mean, yes, you lose, but I lost. I was never going to go unbeaten anyways because I took my first pro fight on 2 weeks' notice because one of my teammates pulled out, and I said, "Fuck it, I'll do it instead." It was a 10 rounder, and I lost on points and majority decision. So my first fight was a loss. Then I came back and I won some. Then I went to Italy and I lost on points, which I thought was a very wide decision, which was bullshit. But then I came back and continued fighting. So I love it. I love fighting. I still have objectives that now I set my mind to, and I said, listen, I'm not going to allow anything to deviate from this path that I want to achieve, these goals that I want to achieve. So nothing will deviate me from the path that I need to be on. And I mean, it's like, yeah, you get pissed off when you lose, and you're like, why did I do that badly? Or like, why was he better than me? I trained hard, blah, blah. But then I always give myself one more shot, because again, I started boxing late. Like, I started boxing every day when I was 20 years old, when I was turned 20 years old. And that was still the first 2 years I was doing kickboxing and boxing. I had no amateur experience. We had like white collar fights. Back then there was no amateur boxing, so the level wasn't that good. And I, like I told you, I didn't have the best of coaching in the beginning. So now that I have it, I have like more of a semblance of how a pro fighter's life who achieves things should be. I think it would be stupid of me to throw it all away now. Yes, I have 9 losses, and yes, the boxing business, the way it works, is not going to be kind to me in getting the opportunities that I want to. But I mean, you just have to keep stringing together wins and making sure that you don't that you win and you win in impressive fashion and that you don't lose, and then the opportunities will come. I mean, Freddie Pendleton, you know who Freddie Pendleton is?
You say what?
Freddie Pendleton, you know who Freddie Pendleton is?
No.
Freddie Pendleton, an old-time fighter. I think he used to fight in the 80s. He started out as a journeyman. He lost like his first 11 fights in America.
Oh
Then
yeah.
he,
That's what Mustafa
Uh,
was talking
oh,
about.
okay.
Yeah.
then he started training and he won I don't know how long, and he ended up winning, I think, the IBF World Championship, one or the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he can do it, why can't other people do it?
You know what, Christian? I really see you getting that opportunity, man, and I want you to continue to be who you are, man. I see nothing but great things happening for you, man. Number one is that you're a family man. And I believe that when you get married, you get blessings and you get favor, you get opportunities that you normally wouldn't get. And that just ordained by God. And I just think that the person that you are, you are very marketable. And like you just said, the only thing you need to do is win. And I'm gonna ask you one more question, and I'm out. So the mega fight was last about 2 3 weeks about 3 weeks ago. Who
Yeah.
were you going for, Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence, and why?
I wanted Errol Spence to win because Errol Spence is a pressure fighter like me.
Correct. That's
But
what my wife said.
Terence Crawford, he's so talented that I always thought there was a very big chance that he would win, but I would never have guessed that he would win on by knockout like that. Because I was thinking Spence is so much bigger, and he's been at welterweight for so much longer and taller, and he has more reach. But I mean, when I saw the fight, I was like, dude, what the hell? You know, it's like Terence Crawford, he was just on another level. It was like they were playing two different games. And on the inside, where Errol Spence should have been the stronger, the bigger guy, I mean, Terence Crawford was still manhandling him. So it was crazy. So
So what
yeah,
did you learn from that fight?
that sometimes size doesn't matter that much. That sometimes, I think sometimes we fighters kill ourselves too much to make weight when it's good, when you would probably just be better off fighting at a higher weight.
So if they fought at 154, do you think it'd be the same outcome?
I don't know, you can never say because one punch changes everything. But unfortunately, throughout the history of boxing, a very good technical fighter who has good stamina and he's strong as well. Most of the time, they beat a very good, strong pressure fighter.
So
Like you see it with many when Floyd fought Manny Pacquiao,
yeah.
like Sergio Martinez, he fought a lot of pressure fighters and he always beat them because he had the stamina and he could keep moving like for all those rounds. I mean, it's hard. I don't think the weight will make that much of a difference because when you have the skills that Terence Crawford has, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Yes, Spence might be more durable. Yes, he might be yes, he might be stronger because he's not going to have to cut those 7 extra pounds. But I mean, Terence Crawford at the moment he's just on another level.
Man, listen, I can keep asking you questions because, man, I just enjoy talking to you. But I know that we need to
Thank you.
go. So I want to give you an opportunity to share a last word to the viewers. And we hope that you enjoyed this interview and that you would be willing to share it with your people in Malta. I would love for them to hear about this interview, this podcast show. This was a great show, and you were a great guest. And we have an opportunity to enter into a different part of the world that we never even
Thank you.
been to. So share with us, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to have a small, like a short message for people to get into training, whatever training that may be. It doesn't have to be boxing because it's great for your physical health and your mental health, and it keeps you away from like bad things which will wreak havoc in your life in general, like drinking and drugs and smoking and stuff like that. So stay away from drinking, drugs, smoking, and train, and you will have a good life. And no, you have to train. Don't stay away from training, and you'll have a good life. And lastly, I want to thank all my sponsors that have helped me throughout the years, and the current ones like Ford Fitness, Casinova, Bistino, Printart, MWS Promotion, and last but not least, Vergata. They've been helping me for a long time as well, along with Ford Fitness. So I'm really grateful for my sponsors, and I hope that through my career, I'm making you proud and you're getting some value back to it as well, which I know you are. But uh,
Very good. Man, Christian, it was great to
Thank
have you on
you.
the show. Thank you for taking time out.
Yes.
What time is it
thank you
there?
for having me. 9 in the evening.
Okay, very
But
good.
I have
Well,
a 5
listen, man.
a.m. 5 a.m. alarm clock.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to let you get off so you can get your rest because you got to
Thank
get
you.
back up in training. And, man, we appreciate you
Yes,
being on
thank
the
you.
Stafford Show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
We out
Thank
of
you for
here.
NWS
having me.
Promotions,
Stafford Boxing.
the making of
The
champions.
best.